What if the man who split the sea in two once wore Pharaoh's crown? In 1984, archaeologists discovered a 3,200-year-old Egyptian papyrus with a strange omission. It recounted a major upheaval during the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, a disappearance of slaves, religious conflict, and even a plague, but it named no specific enemies. Coincidence? Or a sanitized record of a revolt led from within Egypt's own royal house? Because here's the burning question. Was Moses an Egyptian prince who turned against the very empire that raised him? Stick with me. This isn't Sunday school. This is palace intrigue, religious revolution, and maybe the world's first revolutionary freedom fighter. Let's begin with a weird paradox. Moses is perhaps the most influential lawgiver in history, more quoted than Hammurabi, more famous than Solon. Yet, there's no direct Egyptian record of him. Zero. Nada. But here's the twist. We wouldn't expect there to be. The ancient Egyptians had a nasty habit of erasing traitors from history, literally chiseling them out of monuments. It was called damnatio memoriae, memory condemnation, their version of a cancel culture that actually worked. So if Moses had once walked the palace halls of Thebes, dressed in gold, schooled in hieroglyphs, and bowed to Ra, and then turned on his adoptive family, he would have been scrubbed from history like a bad Twitter take. But maybe traces of him survived in disguise. Here's a detail most people miss. The name Moses is not Hebrew. It's Egyptian, derived from Mses, or Mos. It means child, or born of. Think Thutmose, born of Thoth, or Ramesses, born of Ra. So what does just Moses mean? It could mean child of something lost. Or maybe, child rejected. Now imagine, a baby set adrift in the Nile, adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. This isn't just biblical poetry. This is textbook royal adoption. Egyptian princesses were often childless. Adopting from servant or foreigner classes wasn't unheard of. And the act of setting a child in a basket on water was a ritual motif used in Egyptian magical spells for rebirth and protection. So, was Moses a Hebrew? Or a Hebrew-Egyptian hybrid? The story isn't about exile. It might be about identity crisis. Imagine Moses as a young man in Pharaoh's palace. He speaks perfect Egyptian, walks with the confidence of nobility, but deep down, knows he's not like them. He sees Hebrew slaves whipped and starved under the burning sun, and something snaps. According to the Bible, he kills an Egyptian overseer. But what if it wasn't just rage? What if it was political? What if Moses led an insurrection? Egyptologist Jan Assmann proposed that Moses may have been a follower of Pharaoh Akhenaten, the heretic king who overthrew the Egyptian pantheon and introduced monotheism, worship of Aten, the sun disk. Sound familiar? Akhenaten's revolution failed. He was erased from history. But maybe one of his followers, a young noble or adopted prince, kept the flame alive, not in Egypt, but in exile. And maybe he called this one God, not Aten, but YHWH. Let's pause, because here comes the popcorn-worthy part. You know the story. Moses returns, staff in hand, beard majestic, yelling, "Let my people go." 10 plagues later, Pharaoh taps out, and boom, Exodus. But here's the thing. What if the plagues were natural disasters? The Apure Papyrus, written around the time of the Exodus, describes, "The river is blood, the crops fail, the sky is chaos, and the slaves flee." Coincidence? Some scientists suggest a massive volcanic eruption on Santorini around 1600 BCE could have triggered ash clouds, acid rain, red-colored water, and insect infestations. Combine that with Nile flooding, and you've got yourself a divine horror show. But here's the kicker. Moses didn't just demand freedom. He demanded that Egypt change its very soul. He challenged its gods, its kingship, its very identity. And in return, he became not just a rebel, but a revolutionary. A threat so great, he had to be erased. We often picture Moses as an old man with tablets and a big stick. But maybe he was also a broken man, torn between two worlds. He wasn't fully Hebrew. He wasn't fully Egyptian. He walked away from power and privilege, from being Pharaoh's successor to becoming a desert prophet. And maybe that's what makes him timeless. He's the ultimate outsider, A man born of one world, raised in another, and destined to build something entirely new. A people, a law, a legacy. He didn't just lead an exodus out of Egypt. He led an exodus out of empire. So, was Moses an Egyptian prince turned renegade? Historically? Maybe. Symbolically? Absolutely. And perhaps that's the real miracle. Not the parting of seas, but the breaking of chains. Not the fire on the mountain, but the fire inside one man who said no to a god king and yes to a freer world.